Hi there, I'm David, and today we're going to talk about Starlink. Woo! Let's get started. So Starlink is a constellation of satellites, actually several constellations of satellites, with the main goal of providing internet service to the world. SpaceX expects to make up about 3% of the world's internet service by the time Starlink is completely operational, which is completely mind-blowing if you think about it. However, their goal that they state is not to supplant or to replace telecommunications companies, but to cooperate with them. Now, in the US, they have applied for at least 32 ground station permits, like applications with the FCC. I think it's 6 to 10 have been approved by now. And we'll see in the future how that goes. So when it comes to the orbital parameters of these satellites, it's quite interesting. What they're doing is they're throwing a bunch of satellites up in different shells or different layers. And what's interesting also is if you look at the prototypes of the first generation that was really launched by SpaceX to test the system out, they are able to deorbit individual Starlink satellites. So that's great in the event that there's ever a need to retire these satellites. Of course, maybe a few of these are going to go rogue and kind of float around on their own without being able to be controlled, but hopefully there's a fail-safe device in the event of that. Talk about why in just a moment. The first shell is going to live at about 550 kilometers away from the Earth's surface, and there's going to be 1,440 satellites. It's a lot of flying space stuff. The second and third shells are going to be at 340 kilometers, consisting of 7,500 satellites. And the other is going to be at 1,110 kilometers at 2,825 satellites. That's a lot of stuff flying around. The 340 kilometer one with 7,500 has quite a few scientists pretty worried about space junk. We already have a number of other constellations that are up there providing internet service to users and customers around the world. For example, we have Telesat with 117, OneWeb with 648, Iridium constellation with 66 satellites, and Amazon Kuiper, potentially being 3,236, but the information on that, I haven't heard anything in quite some time about the Kuiper project. The reason that this is somewhat alarming to scientists is something that has to do with a problem of us being able to be or get up to space because of too much debris. If there are too many satellites flying overhead that it's impossible to map or even predict where space junk or whatnot will be, how are we going to get or access space whatsoever? If you're going up in a rocket and you hit a certain altitude and you try to circularize or normalize your orbit and all of a sudden you get hit by space junk, well, it's game over, you're done. Or in the words of the movie Aliens, game over, man. But there are some keen benefits that you can really derive from Starlink and projects like it. If we were to surround the Earth with different satellites providing internet and different services, you can effectively communicate with the entire world in an instant. And what's great about these satellites and other constellations of satellites is that the satellites don't just communicate with ground stations or with the customer's Starlink device. They communicate with each other. So even if one fails, it's still able to at least be communicative in general, make up for the loss of a satellite, or even 10% or 20, 30, 40% of the satellites in general. So imagine there's a CME, coronal mass ejection, a big EM wave hits and knocks out a bunch of satellites. Well, the ones that are remaining that were protected on the dark side of the planet are still able to communicate with each other and eventually reach communication areas in which they can communicate with ground stations as well. When it comes to overpopulation of space, it is a concern, a serious concern. However, as long as we maintain a way in which that we can deorbit our satellites automatically, so imagine the satellite detects that it has a fault or a problem, it automatically deorbits itself, we should be pretty good to go. But we should take it easy and calm down a little bit. I think 10, 20, 30,000 satellites just to provide internet to somebody in Antarctica might be a bit excessive, but we'll see. It would be great to see a larger portion of the world sharing in the communication and conversation that we have online, and I'm looking forward to speaking with every single one of you, if it's possible, in the future. Maybe we can all watch videos together. Don't forget to subscribe, check out other videos, like, share, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And hit that bell for notifications on future videos, and we'll see you next time.